Waiters and waitresses, what are some signs you are serving a first date? The biggest sign is when they order something the other doesn't expect them to get. I'll have a Guinness. Oh, you like Guinness? No, I don't know why I'm ordering this. When they come and dress nice, at a Chili's. Oh god, there's a running argument joke between me and one of my friends that Chili's is a fine dining experience. If you could end that for me, you would be my eternal champion. This couple were on a first date, and every time he went to the toilet, she was swiping on Tinder. Ruthless. One time I had a couple who were talking about what they had been doing the previous summer, indicating that they didn't know each other until recently. They ordered a bottle of $100 red wine, and when I came back with the bottle, the guy had started telling a gross story about how he was so hungover on vacation that his friends had to carry him inside the airport, where he had puked multiple times on various people, things, etc. Before she even finished her first glass of wine, the girl left the restaurant and the guy stayed and drank the whole thing himself without ordering any food. The worst part was when he also chugged down her half-finished glass before he left as well. Hey, there was like $10 worth of wine in there. Weird lulls in the conversation that consists of information friends' partners should already know, like how many siblings they have, desert island movies, etc. So, what do you like to do in your free time? When they come in and ask for tables separately, then sit across the restaurant from each other for 10 minutes before realizing the other was there. It was a blind date. Staying way beyond being done with their meal and drinks, usually because they don't want to try to figure out if they're meant to be going home together or not. When I was on my first date nearly 5 years ago with my now fiancé, we went to this nice Italian place. Has drinks, salad, entree, definitely indulging cause yeah, no first date. I wanted to have a good time with this girl, and before we even asked for the check, a fine looking plate of cake came out and the waitress said that our bill was covered by someone who wants to remain anonymous. All she would tell me is that the person said we were looking like we were having a good time and made them smile. I gotta tell you, I was blown away by this act of kindness, and I also think that played a good role in me snagging a second date with the love of my life. We're still trying to pay the act forward and find an obvious first date out at a restaurant. One of these days we will. But yeah, didn't really answer your question, but some patron noticed us and ended up paying a hefty bill on our behalf. Super wholesome and mad respect to the person who did it. Awkwardness when asked if they want to split or one of them pay for both. I still have that 3 years in. She hates me. They actually talk to each other. Comfortable silences are part of a strong relationship. On my first date with my now wife, our waiter figured it out for us. We had been acquaintances for years through mutual friends, and when we agreed to grab dinner that night, neither of us were sure if the other was in it for a date or just dinner with an acquaintance friend. I guess we were being just awkward and giggly enough that our waiter, who had known us separately as regulars at this restaurant, blurted out, "Oh man, are you guys on a date?" We both just started laughing nervously while looking at each other and flop sweating. The waiter felt the awkwardness multiply and backed away like Homer Simpson into a hedge. 9 years later we're married, the restaurant went out of business, and I'm still not sure if it was a date or not. I'm not a waiter anymore, but one time I was at a place and the waiter came over when my girlfriend went to the toilet. He said how he thought things were going well, and asked if this was our first or second date. We had literally been together over 5 years at that point, haha. So yeah, you guys aren't always right. Me and my current girlfriend had a patron at a bar come over and asked if she could cold read our relationship. We said sure, go ahead. The patron guessed that we were on our second or third date and I had just gotten back from a deployment in the military. Me and my girl had been together for 3 years at the time and I've never been in the military. 0 points awarded. Whoa, reading the comments on this thread I've realized all my dates ever have been first dates. That giddy little laugh at jokes that aren't funny, the look of new love, the awkward trying to get close but shyness overpowers and maintains a distance. Also had a few women straight up tell me, so I'd help get them out of it. One woman paid me $50 to spill a drink on her, so she'd have to leave. Lol. I went on a first date once. The heady days of youth, and the girl kept her coat on. I asked her why and she said she was cold. Halfway through the meal she took it off and I asked her if she was warmer now and her answer was something like no, but I don't think I am going to need to make a stealthy getaway now I have got to know you a bit. It was a compliment I think. Honestly can't usually tell. I have made it awkward before by saying you guys are so cute, how long have you been together before to get the response of they are on their first date. Whoops. They'd exit. You gave them both approval it could work. When he leaves before the food he ordered is made, I brought it out and she asked for the bill because he left. Brutal experience. She had to pay for his drinks and food. She didn't even want to pack his dinner up to eat later. This was not a cheap restaurant but the tables were close together so it must have been mortifying. I gave her the employee discount. You a real one for giving her the discount though. Not a waitress, but someone assumed me and my BF of 7 years were on a first Tinder date. I could hear them say it from the table next to us. So, I reached over, took huge sips from his drink and ate off his plate, just for shoots and giggles. I texted him about what and why I was doing this and he laughed, grabbed my drink and said so where are you from and sat my drink back down in front of me. Good times. One time someone asked if my husband and I were together so I pulled him close. Gave him a kiss on the lips, and said no, we're brother and sister. I had the opportunity and I took it. Highlight of my life. My wife and I are always on a first date. We'll have separate bills please. I had a date tell that to the server and then continue telling me why she thinks a guy shouldn't pay the entire amount. According to her, apparently a guy has multiple dates in a month and if he goes on paying for all his dates then it's a huge setback for the monthly savings. Multiple dates. I chuckled and cried at the statement. Not a waiter, but I work at Starbucks. I can tell when a guy and girl meet. Shake hands in front of the register. They order together. The guy pays. Then they sit together talking laughing in the cafe for the next couple hours. Not sure why they're meeting at the register, but it happens a lot. If I was meeting a girl at Starbucks for a first date, I'd meet at the door or a table and then go up and order together. I always text hey I just arrived, let me know when you're here and I try to meet them walking up. I hate the awkward looking around, especially when sometimes it's hard to spot them based off the pictures they used. BC they always spot me before I spot them. I'm 6 feet 6 inches, so a pretty easy indicator in most situations. I once waited an obvious first date where the guy was very shy and nervous. The girl that was with him was absolutely stunning. He kept his hands under the table and fumbled them around a lot. Whenever I came to the table they visibly loosened up so I talked to them for a minute and maybe told a joke or something because they seemed to enjoy it. I hope my boy got laid that night because I tried my best. You can see fear in the guy's eyes. Pay attention to body language. At first they are probably mirroring each other. A couple who is comfortable together and have been together will sit however they want. A first date will usually sit up, like at attention. If it's going well, they might lean in towards each other. If it's not, they will likely put their hands in their lap. If it's bad, look for arms crossed, or drinks thrown. Drinks thrown. That escalated quickly. They arrive separately and confirm that the other person is the one they are supposed to be on the date with. It's also really obvious from someone's reaction if the other person doesn't look like their profile picture. Lack of physical contact. Comments above would suggest some have far too much physical contact for a first date. Till just how much waiters listen to their customers' conversations. When I worked as one I swear I never heard a dang thing my tables were saying. They take forever to order, because they haven't even looked at the menus, even though they have been sitting at the table for 30 minutes. This is a sign of a great first date. I had one of these recently. Served a couple the other day. The boy's parents came in and we had their tables next to each other by coincidence. Everyone had a good laugh and they moved tables. This almost happened to me on my first date with my now husband. We walked in as we approached the restaurant. He said, "Hang on a second," texted someone. I totally thought he was trying to get out of the date, but then he told me his parents' car was outside the place and that he'd just texted his mom to see if they were in there. We went to pizza instead. If it's a Mexican restaurant and nobody is devouring the free chips and salsa. Well, so this happened last week. Had a couple and they were fine. I could tell they didn't want me around for longer than what was necessary, so I gave them their space. It was close to closing time, but I had a bunch of stuff to do, so I just let them gab. Two girls come in and are greeted by my co-worker. Tell her that they are this girl's friend and just want to see what the guy looks like. She seats them with an eye shot, but they are disguised with some ball caps and whatnot. They seem sketchy when I go up to them and mention that the guy looks like Jeffrey Dahmer, and proceed to rag on him before I even ask them what they want. I walk right over to the couple and ask if they know these people. The girls bolt out the door. As they go past the window outside, they are yelling at the girl. All the mean names, you name it. She goes off to the bathroom crying and he asks for the check. Turned out to be his ex and her friend who had been stalking him for 2 months. He also mentioned that this had happened before and he thought he was in the clear after he stopped using social media. He did look kinda like Jeffrey Dahmer though. Big tip from the guy, despite you not doing anything exceptional service wise. Happened to me several times lol. I'm not a waitress, but I hope that somehow the hostess waiter that served my first date with my husband reads this and reminisces at my awkwardness. I met my husband on OkCupid. We talked for a few days and I'd seen a few pictures, but it's hard to be sure what someone will look like in person. We were supposed to meet at a restaurant that's like a small step up from Chili's. So he texts me that he got there first and had been seated already. Awkward, but okay. I walk in and stammer to the waitress something about meeting a date that had already been seated. She told me I could go look for him. I then awkwardly stammered about how I'd never actually met him and didn't know exactly who I was looking for. She laughed and pointed me in the direction of someone who had been seated waiting on a date. Looks a bit like the pictures, but cuter actually. I get to the table and make eye contact and he's like poodle mama and I'm like hey yeah that's me, and we shook hands. Oh my, it was awkward. Found out he thought there was a wait, so he put us on the list, but then they did have a table for two, so they made him sit. That was the reason for that awkwardness. So we wound up talking for 3 hours until they were closing. It was a great date. Now we've been married almost 2 years. We still joke about the first time we shook hands. They look a teeny bit relieved every time you disturb them until things change. Then, if it's going well, you may as well have disappeared. If it's going badly, you're either surrogate friend, fallout shelter, or worst enemy. That part is actually more fun. Talking about the menu way I too in detail to fill silences, or using it to make conversation. I think I'll get mashed potatoes as my side. Tell me about your view on mashed potatoes. Person walks in alone, says they're waiting for one more person who should be here any minute. Handshake or awkward hug when other person walks in, followed by apologies for being late. Not ready to order because they're too busy talking, not looking at the menu. Fine by me. Conversation generally seems to be revolving around very basic info. What do you do for work? Did you grow up around here? Not going crazy on the drinks. Separate checks. Not always, but it is a lot more common now. As soon as both get up and leave, one turns right back around and comes and sits at the bar to debrief the bartender on their awful and awkward Tinder date. They don't look at their phones as often, or will immediately after one leaves for the restroom, etc. It's usually about the banter. First date conversations usually involve a lot of where are you from, what do you do, what's your family like, etc. Physically, they have no connection yet. They're very different from new couple who are all over each other or longer term couples who are just comfortable with each other. The way they will talk about the food always indicates if they have just met. They order safe date things, apps that can be shared without too much touching serving. Women default to salads almost always, although that's true in general. I worked in sushi for a while, and while the food is communal, there's a lot of trepidation around using chopsticks, not touching the other's piece, etc. My favorite are the first dates between a white guy and Asian woman. The assumption she knows everything about sushi but she's Vietnamese is hilarious to see. Also, I also worked in a place men would bring their sugar babies, and that's pretty easy to spot too, and totally different. You have been visited by the safety doggo. Leave any comment and he'll keep you safe for 24 hours. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, Have a great day, you magnificent people.